Kings, Queens, and Majesties, welcome to WhaleStat. I am Slice of Otaku. With this one, we are taking a look at the new 4-star Pyro Catalyst user, Yanfei. And this is a character I am especially excited about because of just how incredible she is as a free-to-play option. My intention with this video is to help you make the most out of what is quite possibly the greatest free-to-play DPS character in the game. We'll be going over her talents, skills, optimal artifacts, weapons, and constellations, all of which you can find timestamps for on the video and in the description. So for more in-depth and dedicated content like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. But without further delay, let's get started with her talents. Alright, so Yanfei's normal attack is integral to her kit. Every time you hit an enemy with it, you'll be able to generate one of what are known as Scarlet Seals, for a maximum of 3, which last for 10 seconds each. Now, these seals serve to decrease your stamina consumption, but only stay around for as long as Yanfei herself is on the field, so don't expect to pass these off to other characters. And mind you, this is a 15% decrease per seal, no matter how many times you upgrade the talent. So we're looking at a maximum reduction of 45%. And again, because she is unable to pass this around, I for one prefer to have her as a main DPS, although you can certainly use her as a sub DPS if you so choose. But the capabilities of her Scarlet Seals don't stop there, as her charge attack is where they'll really be able to shine. When you use her charge attack, you'll consume whatever number of seals you have been able to accumulate, which again decreases stamina cost of said charge attacks, but also increase their damage. With this, you'll want as many seals on you as possible prior to using your charge attack, which isn't all too complicated. You'll do your 3-hit normal attack string and conclude it with a 3-seal charge attack for max damage. There are even visual counters to help you keep track. Once she does that overhead toss animation, it's time to let mayhem ensue. Because of this, her normal attack is by far her most important talent, so be sure to prioritize leveling it up. Moving on to her elemental skill, Signed Edict, you unleash a sudden cluster of AoE pyro damage that upon a hit, provide Yanfei the maximum number of Scarlet Seals instantly, which is amazing. By doing this, you speed up the process and can immediately use your charge attack for max damage. So with this, you'll use your elemental skill as soon as you possibly can and use your normal attacks instead when it is on cooldown. If you're running Yanfei as a sub DPS, your bread and butter will likely be elemental skill, charge attack, and switch. Her elemental burst, done deal, is the abrupt release of AoE pyro damage that, like her elemental skill, instantly provides Yanfei with the maximum number of Scarlet Seals, but also sets her up with what is known as Brilliance. And this thing is crazy. First and foremost, it passively provides Yanfei with new Scarlet Seals, which help you move to using your charge attacks that much faster. And speaking of charge attacks, it additionally increases the damage of all your charge attacks. But do bear in mind that the application of the Brilliance effect is exclusive to Yanfei, which only furthers the case of primarily using her as a main DPS. But now taking a look at her passive talents, we firstly have Encyclopedic Expertise. This points out leeway-specific resources close by you on your minimap. Nothing too revolutionary here, but it is nice to have regardless. The next one being Proviso. Whenever Yanfei consumes Scarlet Seals with her charge attack, each individual seal will grant her a 5% pyro damage bonus that lasts for 6 seconds, or until she uses another charged attack, in which case the previous bonus will conclude. That is a 15% pyro damage bonus that in theory should be up perpetually considering how often you'll be generating and consuming seals. And finally, the skill that brings it all together and serves to take her entire kit to the next level, Blazing Eye. When a charge attack from Yanfei lands a crit, she then deals an additional bit of AoE pyro damage, which is equal to 80% of her attack. And not only that, but this damage is considered to be charged attack damage. That is ridiculously good, and because of it, when we hit, we definitely want to crit. So crit rate is even more desirable than it typically already is for a DPS character in this case. And with that, let us move on to her constellations. The benefits of constellations definitely vary from character to character, but when it comes to Yanfei, they're pretty great. At Constellation 1, we have the Law Knows No Kindness. This further reduces the stamina cost of charge attacks by 10% for each Scarlet Seal exchanged, and also increases their ability to resist being interrupted during its release. So at 3 Scarlet Seals, that is a 75% reduction to charge-based stamina consumption, which effectively allows you to do your thing at the character's best for longer. And being able to better avoid being stopped in the midst of it is good too, especially considering you won't be sprinting with her much. This is to me a fantastic stopping point for her constellations. At Constellation 2, we have Rite of Final Interpretation. This increases the crit rate of Yanfei's charge attacks by 20% against enemies below half health. Because of Blazing Eye's reliance on critical hits, this is wonderful. But hey, if you are already maxed out on crit rate prior to this addition, it obviously won't do you much good. But inversely, it does then give you the flexibility to drop down a bit in exchange for boosting another stat if you don't mind waiting until an enemy is at half health to reap the complete benefits. Constellation 3 is your typical leveling up of the character's elemental skill, which is a nice bit of extra damage, but not the craziest thing ever. Her Con 4, Supreme Amnesty, is a bit more on the supportive side actually. When Yanfei uses her elemental burst, it will then create a shield that absorbs up to 45% of her max HP for 15 seconds and absorbs pyro damage 250% more effectively. This can make a shield team even crazier, but it's not something to lose our minds over. Constellation 5 is your run-of-the-mill elemental burst level up, and Constellation 6 is a simple yet groundbreaking addition as it increases Yanfei's maximum number of Scarlet Seals from 3 to 4. Now, considering how integral these seals are to virtually everything the character does, this is certainly a mouth-watering buff. That's more damage to be had across the board, and in conjunction with her C1, makes a full seal charge attack a 100% stamina cost reduction. And listen, another name for a 100% price reduction is free, baby. And here, free is freedom, because then you can afford to sprint a bit if you'd like. But it's important to remember that her normal attack is still a 3-hit string, so you'll have to start another one to get the 4 seals from that alone. But no matter, the more the merrier, and with an elemental skill and burst that instantly fill them up, that is absolutely no problem. So yeah friends, if this character is the love of your life, you will definitely feel rewarded by her C6. But hey, what's a good character without good weapons, right? So when it comes to weapons, this is the first aspect of Yanfei that absolutely screams free-to-play friendly. The weapon flexibility of this character is astounding and makes building her so much more fun because of just how subtly different we can all have her be. Beginning with our 4-star options, we have Mappa Mare for the sake of making the most out of elemental reactions. This is to me perhaps a bit more on the supportive side of the spectrum, but doesn't necessarily need to be. But because it's craftable via the blacksmith, it is pretty damn accessible. Then there's Frostbearer, which has an attack percentage substat, and is pretty interesting in that normal and charge attacks with it have at Refinement 1 a 60% chance to drop an icicle, which then deals 80% attack damage in an AoE, what effectively serves to be a pseudo Blazing Eye proc without the critical hit stipulation attached. But mind you, this only has a chance of happening every 10 seconds. And I should also make it clear that not only are you not putting that cryo bonus to use here, but as it turns out that icicle is technically physical damage. So unfortunately, you won't be working with any self-made melt reactions here. Now, you can get the schematics for this weapon upon achieving level 10 with the Frostbearing tree found in Dragonspine, making Refinement 5 with this weapon very possible. And if you get there, you guarantee yourself an icicle crash every 10 seconds, so that's very nice. Now stepping into the gacha adjacent choices, we have the Royal Grimoire, which can be found in Paimon's Bargains for 24 star glitter a copy. The substat for this one is attack percentage, which is great for a DPS, and its skill increases your crit rate by 8% at base for a maximum of 5 stacks, which would then be a maximum of 40%. However, this is then reset upon a successful critical hit. If you don't have much else at your disposal, this is a respectable choice, although it is not entirely ideal. Why? Because we want our crits to especially be on our charge attacks to get the most out of that oh so glorious Blazing Eye ability. So it's not as reliable as we would like it to be. But again, it is still good in my book. But now, let's take a look at the Battle Pass weapon, Black Cliff Agate. The main stat here is crit damage percentage, and if you're already set on crit rate, why not enjoy your odds that much more? Its skill, Press the Advantage, provides an attack increase of 12% upon defeating an enemy, which can stack up to 3 times, with each buff having an independent duration of 30 seconds. With Yanfei being an AoE damage dealer, you are bound to thin the herd over time, so this is a great choice for dealing with several enemies at once, but admittedly does fall flat in the face of singular bosses and such, so keep that in mind. And finally, for our last 4-star consideration, we have the Eye of Perception, which is obtainable through the gacha, and is additionally on rate up with the current weapon banner. This thing has a substat of attack percentage along with the skill Echo. This causes normal as well as charge attacks to have a 50% chance to fire off a bolt of perception, thus dealing a colossal 240% attack damage hit. And although this isn't AoE damage like the rest of Yanfei's blows, this bolt can from there bounce between enemies a total of 4 times, and it doesn't even degrade in damage when doing so. This can only happen once every 12 seconds, but if the whale in you begins to surface, you will more than likely come across a number of these things as I have. At Refinement 5, that is 360% attack damage we are dealing with once every 8 seconds. Sure, the chance of a proc is forever 1 in 2, but when you are always attacking, unless you are exceedingly unlucky, it'll feel like 100% regardless. And at a spreading 360% attack damage, it is hard to complain. But perhaps you are a whale or simply just that lucky. Well, you certainly have 5-star options as well. Skyward Atlas has an attack percentage substat along with the signature skill, Wandering Clouds. You will have a constant bonus of 12% at base for your elemental damage, which fully encompasses Yanfei's entire kit, so that's amazing. But furthermore, you will also receive a 50% chance to coin the favor of the clouds, which attack nearby enemies for 160% attack damage for 15 seconds. Something that can only happen once every 30 seconds. It's pretty much taking the best thing about Mappa Mare and having it have no prerequisite. And although it can't stack, that consistency goes a whole lot further in my book. It then combines this with something similar to Eye of Perception. But because you are of course more likely to have the 4-star option at a higher refinement rank, for many it may not justify the swap. But to close it all out, we have my personal favorite, Lost Prayer to the Sacred Winds, a weapon that possesses a substat of additional crit rate percentage. And because crits are a friend, this is a wonderful option. Its skill, Boundless Blessing, increases movement speed by 10% regardless of refinement. You'll want to avoid spending your precious stamina on anything other than charge attacks, so being able to offset that reluctance to dash is neat. But the real seller of this weapon is the 8% elemental damage bonus every 4 seconds at base, which can stack for a maximum of 4 times. And you don't have to do anything to achieve this, only keep said character out on the field, because it concludes if they ever leave. This weapon also emits up to 4 little orbs, which act as visual aids, which make it feel all the more fitting on Yanfei. If you're using Yanfei as a main DPS, she will be out on the field more often than not, allowing you to justify the wait for the increased damage. That is a 32% pyro damage bonus after just 16 seconds that sticks around. And if you are the beluga sort of whale, you're looking at a 64% pyro damage bonus at refinement rank 5, at which point you should probably check your wallet for fire. And now that you have decided on your weapon of choice, it is time to progress onwards to the artifacts that'll make the most out of them. As far as artifacts go, Yanfei wants all the things any good DPS does. I'm talking attack percentage, crit rate, crit damage, and elemental mastery, depending on how you're building her. Her 2 best artifact sets are 4-piece Crimson Witch of Flames and 4-piece Wanderer's Troop. Crimson Witch serves to make the most out of her entirely pyro damage kit. Whereas with Wanderers, that 2-piece elemental mastery bonus is cute, but the 35% buff to charge attack damage is everything. You are always gearing up to use your charge attack with this character. And when applying this to the Blazing Eye talent, which considers its additional damage to be charge attack damage, that is an extra 115% pyro damage AoE every time you crit with a charge attack. So with either set, you really want to get that crit chance as close to 100% as you possibly can, along with that beefy attack percentage and crit damage to make it worth your while. Elemental mastery can be nice, but it shouldn't take priority over the aforementioned. For your goblet, you always want that pyro damage main stat as it is integral to making the most out of this fiery character. But then of course we have her desirable team comps. Now when it comes to teams, allow me to further exemplify why this character is such an amazing free-to-play DPS. For the most part, her best friends can all be frugal options. To make the most out of her damage and receive a 25% increase, we will certainly have to have that pyro elemental resonance. The primary candidates for such a thing being Shangling and Bennett, who are both 4 stars and have been made particularly available to us in the past. especially Xiangling. Now, I'm pretty sure everyone and their mother knows how impressive Bennett is by now, but if you don't, put simply, his burst not only heals characters in a designated radius, but it also provides a bonus to attack based on his own attack stat, which can result in some pretty crazy shenanigans. And considering you won't be sprinting around too much, remaining in that shouldn't be a problem for Yanfei. Xiangling, on the other hand, is especially fun on account of her elemental skill, Guba, specifically at Constellation 1, because enemies hit by Guba receive a 15% reduction to pyro resistance for 6 seconds. And if you ascend her to phase 4, when Guba leaves, he leaves behind a 10% attack bonus chili that lasts you 10 seconds. And with a cooldown of 12 seconds on Guba, that to me is a pretty solid trade. So yeah, you can go with either of the two depending on how you've chosen to build Yanfei herself. Bennett being perhaps a more relaxed bonus, whereas Xiangling is more timing based. For this team, I also like Xingqiu for the most passive vaporize reaction possible, and because Yanfei so heavily deals in AoE, Venti or Sucrose are fantastic for herding the flock, consolidating your focus, and getting that swirl damage going. Now, a team on the more whaley whale side of things could be Zhongli if you were lucky enough to pick him up, either now or in the past, Albedo to make that shielding even more ludicrous, or alternatively Ningguang if you don't have him, and again, Xiangling or Bennett. More so Xiangling in this instance, simply because with that level of defense and shielding, by the time you even consider heals, the fight will probably be over already. And if you have Yanfei at Constellation 4, that's even more shielding. You feel no pain. Now, a really cheeky aspect of this build is what I call the elevator method. Either by way of Albedo or Zhongli's elemental skills, you can rise above the battlefield as Yanfei and let fire rain down. But do bear in mind that this method works better on certain enemies more than others, but is regardless a pretty good final resort if your back is against the wall. And if I were to go support with her, I would have Hu Tao up front along with Xingqiu and Fischl. Hu Tao is crazy strong but very reliant on her elemental skill, so when that's on cooldown, you just let everyone else unload, then return back to her and enjoy the benefits of elemental reactions. But because Hu Tao plays a dangerous game with her health, you may want to swap that Fischl for a Diona perhaps if you need the heals. And furthermore, Hu Tao loves shields, making Diona pretty great. And at that, you will get a whole lot more mileage out of Yanfei's elemental burst as a sub DPS at Constellation 4. But there you have it folks, a complete guide to using Yanfei, one of the absolute greatest free-to-play options Genshin Impact has seen thus far. If you have her, hopefully you now know how to best make use of her ridiculous potential. And if you have yet to obtain her, but intend to, best of luck on your rolls. This channel is only just getting started, so it would be greatly appreciated if you would consider subscribing to Whalestat after making it this far in. We intend to release a regular flow of content for the game that I am sure you will all enjoy. I have been your host, Slice of Otaku. Thank you all so much for watching and have an awesome day. I love you.